गुड मॉर्निंग एमआईजीएंस, सुप्रभातम। मैं आप सभी से अनुरोध करता हूं कि आपके मोबाइल साइलेंट मोड में रखो और नेशनल एंथम के लिए 2 मिनट के लिए खड़े हो जाओ। जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता, पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंग, विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंग। तव शुभ नामे जागे, तव शुभ आशीष मागे, गाहे तव जय गाथा। जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता, जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे। भारत माता की जय। मैं हमारे प्रेसिडेंट साहब को रिक्वेस्ट करता हूं कि वेलकम एड्रेस दे।
Jai Shri Krishna MIGians, a warm welcome. I would like to start with a very warm welcome to our esteemed speaker for today, Mr. Ganesh Natarajan, an IITian who is on a mission to build digital futures. There is a famous quote that states, it's no longer the big beating the small, but the fast beating the slow. So it is no longer the big beating the small, but the fast beating the slow. And digital transformation is one such key factor separating the fast from the slow. So who better to educate us about the necessity of ensuring the evolution of our businesses in the fast changing times than Mr. Natarajan, who aims to help others intending to embrace change and attain leadership. Today's number speaks for the importance of this subject. Ganesh Chaturthi is celebrated to mark the birth of Lord Ganesha, god of wisdom, prosperity, and good luck, and is believed to be the remover of obstacles and the giver of good fortune. आज हमारे समक्ष गणेश जी पधारे हुए हैं, जो हमको स्वयं आज की परिस्थिति से सही मार्ग बताएंगे। MIG के लिए आज ही सही मायनों में गणेश जी की स्थापना हुई है। I thank you, sir, for your presence here today to share your deep understanding about this subject. I also want to thank my friend CA and Dr. Vardhaman Jain, who facilitated to call upon our guest speaker. And soon next month, on 29th of October, Sunday, we'll be having him among us as our guest speaker on the subject, from a business balance sheet to a life balance sheet. I now request Jitendra ji to formally introduce our guest and his various accomplishments. Before that, I call upon Atul ji to felicitate Mr. Ganesh ji Natarajan. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Shri Ganesh Ji Natarajan as he takes the stage. It is my pleasure to introduce Shri Natarajan. He is an accomplished Indian business leader and entrepreneur. He is widely recognized for his contribution to the IT and business process management industry in India. Shri Natarajan is the founder of 5F World, a platform dedicated to investment, mentoring of startups, skill platforms, and social enterprise. Currently, he is chairman of Honeywell India, which is a 4,000 crore company, and Fortune 500 India as per the listing MCAP. And Mr. Natarajan was a vice chairman and CEO of Zensa Technology, which is an IT service company. He serves as a board director of Hinduja Global Solutions, SBI Payments, One Crowd, Educate Girls, and Asian Venture Philanthropy Network. He has been chairman of NASSCOM and NASSCOM Foundation. He is president of HBS Club of India and served multiple terms on the National Council of CII. He is also author of 12 books on business process reengineering. We call it as a BPR, knowledge management, and the publication of IT industry and Inspire Leadership. His last two co-authored books on Facing Up the China and India's Pathway to Success are bestsellers. He has just published his first novel also, A Passage Through Life. We look forward to enriching this August gathering with his word of wisdom. Thank you. Shri Natarajan ji, please take stage.
गुड मॉर्निंग टू एवरीबॉडी. पता नहीं आप लोग क्यों सैटरडे मॉर्निंग को आए, बट अगर आए तो मुझे एंटरटेन करना ही पड़ेगा आपको. आई एम वेरी डिलाइटेड दैट माई गुड फ्रेंड वर्धमान जैन जी इज़ हियर, बिकॉज आई एक्चुअली मेट हिम ओनली 6 months बैक. क्योंकि सुनने में आया था कि हमारे जो रोटरी क्लब ऑफ रिवाइज साइड है उसमें एक महान हस्ती होते थे JP श्रॉफ और दूसरे महान हस्ती होते थे वर्धमान जैन. तो मैंने JP को तो मैंने गोल्फ कोर्स में ढूंढ के निकाला और बोलो आप भी आओ और आपके ब्रदर इन लॉ के भी लेके आओ. तो उसके बाद से हमारे जो रोटरी क्लब में तो 4 चांद लग गए, सीरियसली, बिकॉज नो रोटरी मीटिंग एंड्स विदाउट अ पोएम बाय वर्धमान जैन एंड हिज पोएट्री एज ऑल ऑफ यू नो. तो मैं यहाँ से जाने वाला नहीं हूँ, तो आप लिख लो. बिल्कुल. So without a poem by Vardhaman Jain, no event is complete. And he told me to talk about digital. Now, digital is a subject. Now, honestly, I mean, I have done my PhD in digital knowledge management, so I can talk at that level, and you don't want that, okay? I can talk at a middle level, or I can talk at a very low level. क्या level चाहिए बोलो? Mix of low and middle? ठीक. So in that case, the only way I can do it is to ask you questions. Are you okay if I ask you questions? मैं पॉइंट नहीं करने वाला हूँ कि वर्धमान ये आंसर करो, तो उतना बुरा हाल नहीं होगा, बट आई विल स्टिल आस्क यू क्वेश्चन, बिकॉज माई फीलिंग इज दैट इन द नेक्स्ट 1 hour आई डोंट वांट टू टॉक फॉर 1 hour, but if we discuss point by point, I think your understanding will be better. And one of my goals, not only from a business point of view, but also from a what we do in life point of view, is to make sure that everybody embraces digital. So I really want to explain to you that digital is not only for Honeywell Technologies and the Hinduja Group. It is meant for the gentleman who was speaking here, who is running a small company, 60 people. It is meant for everybody. Or isliye, and let me ask my first question. What do you think are the 3 most important things happening in India today? आप G20 मत बोलो, बहुत हो गया G20 में. 3 most things. And nothing to do with digital. I'm just asking you a general question. So आजकल इतने hype है about India. You know, people are really excited. Mr. Modi has a 76% popularity rating, and the recent G20 saw the importance that India has, not only as a leader of the global south, but generally. So what is happening in India? Yes, sir, go ahead. Perfect. Massive investment. What kind of infrastructure? Public infrastructure. Any other points? Digital economy. Any others? Startups. अलग से बात करेंगे. I'm not too ज़्यादा hype हो गया startups, so we'll talk about that later. हाँ. Digital rupee going global, not yet, but likely. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Digital payments, yeah.
Urbanization. We are moving from.
You should read our book on pathways to India's success. I mean, we'll have to think about. So UPI. I was going to come to UPI. So two things are happening. One is massive investment in infrastructure. I mean, if you look at what is happening in rail infrastructure, road infrastructure. Yesterday, Nitin Gadkari ji was here and talked about. ये तो बहुत सुनने में आया है कि Pune will have these multiple highways. ये वो. We are still waiting for that airport ka location. So Pune is a different problem altogether. But we won't talk about Pune. Let's be happy about Bharat. Okay, let's forget about Pune. Pune kabhi na kabhi to aa jayega. I remember I moved here because I ran this company called Aptech for 10 years, 1991 to 2001. And it was a huge success story because we took it to 42 countries, market leaders even in China. And then at the peak of Aptech, I said, let's do something else. So that's when I moved to Pune to look at Zensar Technologies. और उस टाइम में Zensar Technologies was a little building in what is today the Phoenix Mall. Okay, so we sold that building off to a company which eventually became the Phoenix Mall, and we took 10 acres of land in a place called Kharadi at 22 lakhs per acre. Can you believe that low? और उसके साथ एक free building भी MIDC ने दे दिया कि आप लोग इधर land लोगे तो you can take the MIDC building also. And this is not all that far back. It was 2004. Okay. And I remember at that time going to meet the municipal commissioner कि sir ये जो road है ना जो नगर road बहुत ही बेकार था. Okay, it was like a cart track, and we had 55% girls working in our office. So the girls used to be afraid to come to Kharadi क्योंकि वो वापस आते समय they'll be in a dacoits ये वो. Okay, today if you look at Kharadi you can't believe what I'm saying. So, and I remember the municipal commissioner told me कि don't worry, by 2008 we'll have the 6-lane highway all the way to Ranjangaon, etc., etc. वो 2008 को नहीं हुआ, but 2013 तक हो गया. But कभी ना कभी हो ही जाता है पुणे में. Okay? If you wait long enough, good things happen. The good news about India is that it's happening at a pace, thanks to Mr. Nitin Gadkari, thanks to Prime Minister Modi, everybody else, that is breathtaking. So while we may have missed the boat in terms of, we were hoping, if you remember the election manifesto, we would be a $5 trillion economy by 2024. वो तो होने वाला नहीं है, because we are still just about reaching the 4 trillion. But one thing that's happening is, and you all mentioned it, that the digital economy is galloping. One of the big elements of the G20 manifesto was what they call digital public goods. And if any of you have seen a video, I sent it to Vardhan yesterday, I can maybe send it to all of you. But there was a recent showcase G20 mein on what all is happening in digital. We all know about UPI, but beyond UPI, whether it's Bheem, whether so many things, the potential is that the digital economy can completely take over this country. Now I ask you my next question. What is digital economy? Hota kya hai? What's the difference between, what is this $1 trillion digital economy that we are saying will happen in India faster than India becomes $5 trillion in overall GDP? Any answers to that? Don't worry, it's a tough question, so any answer is correct. What is this digital economy? Hota kya hai? What is your understanding of UPI, for instance, is a classic example of digital economy. I keep telling people this story. Let me tell you this also. I was in America 4 months back. An early morning flight tha, I think it was 6:30 flight. So I go to Newark Airport in New York, and I desperately wanted a coffee. So coffee shop open bhi tha. There was a girl standing there. So I said, ma'am, can I have a coffee? She said, do you have $3? I said, I have $5. I mean, give me the coffee and you can give me $2 back. She says, how does that work? I said, if I give you $5, I have a coffee worth $3, you have to give me $2 back. She says, sorry, I mean, I don't know all this. I mean, I have to wait for my machine to start working. Seriously, I cannot believe this. Okay, I didn't have the coffee because she didn't know how to subtract 3 from 5. And idhar, I was with JP Shroff, I was playing golf on the golf course, when was it? About 8 months back. So, ek 5th hole ke baad, there is a little chai tapodi wala. So we went and said, so he said, credit card to मैं लेता नहीं हूँ. So I said, 100 रुपया का change है क्या? He said, क्या sir? GPay कीजिए ना. This is the difference. Okay? And this guy, seriously. So today, GPay, UPI, etc. has become ubiquitous. Okay. Today, of course, there is a long article by the MasterCard CEO saying they're giving it so cheap that all credit card companies will close down in India. Okay. And in fact, one of my very good friends Shri Rajneesh Kumar, who was the chairman of SBI, I'm on the board. He's joined as chairman of MasterCard. So I was talking to him yesterday. He said, "Yeah, बहुत मुश्किल है. To make money in payment transactions in India has become almost impossible." The good news for the common man, and that is what will happen in digital India. The digital economy means whether it is SMEs, many of you are running small companies. All aspects of SMEs, there should be a portal like UPI. You should be able to access the best material, lowest cost. We are already investing in a company in Pune called Farm Guru, which is working with farmers across Maharashtra, and saying that, look, you will access the best seed quality, access most reliable forecasts on monsoon, what to sow, what crop to do. Everything will be available digitally in multiple languages. I mean, today they are doing the digital transactions in almost 33 languages, more than the official languages. Even dialects are being used. So it's actually an amazing story that's happening. And thanks to my good friend Nandan Nilekani, who of course created the whole Aadhaar revolution, and what Prime Minister calls the Jam Trinity, matlab Jan Dhan, everybody has a bank account, Aadhaar and mobility. So this Jam Trinity is what is creating the magic in this place. So if I go to the next step, why digital is created by all this, and if any of you want this presentation, both complex presentation, don't worry about it. You don't need to read it. But if any of you want it, I'll send it to the organizers. You can take it. It's a good presentation. But effectively what we're saying is the digital economy, and just to tell you where I'm going with this presentation, we'll talk a little bit about Digital India. Uske baad we'll dive straight into agar aapko company mein digital success chahiye, so what should you be doing, which is what I'm primarily here for. And then we'll end again back in how the digital economy in India will progress over a period of time. Okay? So these are some of the things that are very important. So if you read there, first is smartphones. I mean, today almost everybody in this country is using smartphones. And if Mr. Mukesh Ambani has his way, then 99%, 100% will start using smartphones, because data in India is cheaper than anywhere else in the world. Which is why Africa wants to take the whole digital idea from India. That's definitely going to happen. Connected things. I'm saying connected things because I don't know how many villages are there in India. Anybody? Good. So about 675,000 is about 7 lakhs, and there are about 250,000 gram panchayats. Because typical one gram panchayat covers 4 villages. Today, the digital connectivity has reached the gram panchayats. Not fully. Not 100 Mbps bandwidth, but kafi had tak hai. And the opportunity, which is what Prime Minister Modi said in this August 15 speech 2 years back, this is national optic fiber network which they're laying across, which will actually make this available. So imagine if every farmer sitting in the village I come from, Tatisilva in Jharkhand, has access to the same information that somebody in Pune or somebody in Mumbai or somebody in New York has. The asymmetry of information, that some people have more information, which is why there's a digital divide, that will go away completely. So it is up to your imagination ki usse kya hone wala hai. That is what I mean by the connected economy, connected things. The third, you're seeing there is online commerce. I don't know how many of you have heard of something called ONDC, which is the network for digital commerce. So when ONDC was first launched 6 months back, suddenly Swiggy, Domino's and all said, sab humko band karna padega. Because it was so cheap and you could get anything on the ONDC network, that many of the people the startups who made a lot of money in the early days, $1 billion valuation, ye, wo, sab kuch, unicorns, etc., are worried ki the investment in public digital infrastructure will actually make a lot of private sector companies irrelevant, including the MasterCards of the world. So it's scary at one side. If you're starting a company, you better make sure you're riding on public good and not trying to compete with public goods. Because public goods will always be subsidized by the government, will always be cheap, so you cannot compete with that. So that's really what's happening in digital. The fourth, of course, is because of that online commerce, because of that the data flood, as we call it, massive amounts of data in this country, and not easy to capture. I mean, I was delighted about the tribal girls education you talked about. One of my big NGOs is an entity called Educate Girls, which is based in Bombay, run by an amazing woman called Safina Hussain. And we are currently working with 7.5 lakh girls in the remotest parts of Rajasthan, UP, MP and Bihar. But even there, the amount of data, I mean, for instance, I don't know how many of you are aware that most girls, most children dropped out of school in COVID for good reasons. 70% of the girls who dropped out in the villages from COVID have not gone back to school. School khulne ke baad bhi, the parents are not admitting them back. Do you know why? Kyun aisa ho raha hai? What are they doing? Those 70% girls who are not back in school? Household work, cheap labor hai. So the families have got used to the girls now sweeping the floor, doing everything. And unfortunate reality of India is feminization, जिसे कहते हैं, because the participation of women in the workforce has actually come down in India, but participation of women in agriculture has gone up. So all the women and children in Haryana and various places are working in the farms, and the men are doing nothing but drinking. So we have a real problem in society. And I mean, I spend a lot of time in villages because of Educate Girls, but वो बहुत problem है. So I'm really happy that that you're supporting tribal girls, because girl child education in rural India is the make or break for this country. And anything you people can do from your own institution, like I tell Rotary also, we should do. So I think that's the other thing. And finally, of course, I'll talk a little bit about the generation divide, because we all believe कि जो हमारे बच्चे बात करते हैं हमको कभी समझ में नहीं आएगा. Okay? And उनके बच्चे जो बात करेंगे वो तो कभी ना कभी समझ में आ सकता है. It's really where it is. Okay? But so this generation gap is very real. And how does it affect companies? I'll talk a little bit about. And the last point is ubiquitous connectivity. Means everything will be connected. उसमें कोई doubt नहीं है. Even if you go to the GE factory in Chakan or the new factories that are coming up, there is very little manpower utilization. So when people say, China did this, moved so many people from the farms to factories and electronics factories in Shenzhen and Shanghai, everywhere else, India should do the same thing. Sorry, that bus is left. Abhi, manufacturing is going to be heavily automated. I mean, what we do in Honeywell is full process automation, building automation. So very little need for manpower, which is a different question. I mean, if any of you have a question, I can answer it in the Q&A. But so what will happen to the 400 million young Indians who are looking for jobs, which is what we do in Pune, in an entity called Pune City Connect, where we build these 16 skills lighthouses for the urban poor. So every slum out of the 540 slums in Pune, we are working with to say, Bhaiya, what do you want to do? And let us train you for that. So all this is social work that has to be done. But I'm saying that is what's going to happen as the future of the country. So we'll stop there. So let me move forward and say that why is digital becoming so important? You won't be able to read it, so don't worry. So I'm saying the main spur or the main accelerator for digital was technology. Okay. In fact, the first set of technologies were something called SMAC. SMAC is social media, all the Facebooks and Twitters and everything else. That is the information dissemination. Mobility, we already talked about that. The third, which is becoming very important, is data. So we call it analytics. How do you analyze data and predict whether it's monsoons or whatever else? And C is something called cloud. What is cloud? I mean, we all know that. I mean, I remember 30 years back, somebody called Carr in Harvard Business Review, he predicted that a day will come when nobody will buy a computer. Because there'll be one huge computer sitting out there, one copy of Microsoft Office, and whenever you want it, you download it and use it. You'll do everything on your mobile phone. I mean, even today, my friend Tapan Singhal, who's the CEO of Bajaj General Insurance, Tapan is not using a computer at all. Even I never carry my computer around. That's why I requested Vardhaman ki bhai, ek computer wahan lagwa do, nahi to I'll have a problem. Because I just carry my mobile phone. Everything is there on your mobile phone. Why do you need a computer? But people who are used to computers will still have the, I have to have my laptop, I have to have my iPad. So the point I'm making is that the availability of cloud computing, matlab Amazon and Google and everybody else, who are hosting all your information on the cloud and giving you access on your mobile phone, is what is the core of digital. Now let me switch tracks, okay? So so you have cloud computing, you have mobility, you have, let's say, 60 people in your office and maybe 60, 600, 6,000, 60,000, whatever. And we want to be digital. Why should my company become digital? Question. आप अगर invest करोगे 50 lakhs, 5 crores in digitalization of your company, like India is investing in digital. I told you the benefits of Digital India. But what is the advantage for a small manufacturing company or a medium manufacturing company to invest in digital? Tell me. To reach out to whom? So mainly customer, right? I mean, sometimes we forget. And I keep telling entrepreneurs and CEOs of companies that, bhaiya, if you think that, look, you will hire a great CTO, CIO, or usko sab chhod denge, you've lost the plot already. I mean, in State Bank of India, every month, Dinesh Khara, who is the chairman of SBI, takes a 4-hour meeting on what's happening with the digital, what is happening with YONO, what is the future. Because that is what is going to change the future of State Bank of India, like it has done for ICICI and HDFC and everything else. So I think customer, so if you look at the bottom, it says 3 things. One is enhancing productivity, which should be the obvious one, because I mean, I'll give you a few examples of digital success. Enhancing productivity literally means shop floor productivity, marketing productivity, sales productivity, everything goes up because you have complete access to information, which is obvious. जो पहले पहले हमने computer लगाते थे, that was also the same reason that we wanted to improve efficiency. But the digital effectiveness is happening because of what you said, which is what I've written here on the left hand side called improving the customer experience. That is the customer getting a better response from the brand because of your investment in digital technology. I'll give you a few examples of that. The third is, of course, which I will come to right at the end, finding new business models. Where an old business model has completely changed, payments, UPI is one example. I mean, the business model of going and making a money order and sending money to somebody, वो सब तो हम बिल्कुल भूल ही गए. Okay, like the telegram stopped and the telex stopped. This is changing. That's a business model in multiple areas. Okay, whether it's logistics, whether it's financial services, whether it's manufacturing, I think business models are changing. So just keep that in mind. That if you think about digital, think about it as a leader, and think about it for productivity improvement, experience improvement, and new business model possibility, if it's there. Okay, so that's the idea. So I'll just talk very briefly about 5 things that make it successful. That's why I said it is not about technology. It is not about social media, analytics, cloud, and mobility. It goes much beyond that today. Successful companies which are seeing maybe 5 times growth because of digital, including State Bank. I mean, as many of you know, State Bank in the first quarter of this year was the most profitable company in India. And I remember when I joined the board 3 years back, the market value of State Bank was 1.25 lakh crores. Okay. Today it's running at 6 lakh crores. But 3 saal mein, if you invested in State Bank of India, I hope you did, your value is 4 times. Okay. And this is true for HDFC, it's true for even smaller banks. It is not true for some sad banks which were run by idiots, but it's true for all the big banks. Okay. Even Bank of Baroda, Canara Bank are doing well because there is this huge uptick if you invest in digitalization. So that's really what's happening there. And it's true for Honeywell very much. We are a completely digital company. I mean, you look at Honeywell globally, it's based in Charlotte in the US, $32 billion corporation with a massive R&D budget. I mean, unka research budget is unfortunately, more than the government of India. Because we don't invest enough in technology, in research. But 80% of the research of Honeywell is in what we call sustainability, which is new areas, more efficient fuels, better process automation, etc. I mean, that is the future thinking that I really love about Honeywell or State Bank or any of these companies. And many companies are not doing it, but they will be left out. And I'm telling you again that even if you think your company is too small, start thinking about digital now, so that you can be ahead of the pack when it comes to digital transformation. So, the point I'm making is, the first is what I think you talked about. When you say customer, okay, we can all think about customer, but what good companies are doing is managing multiple journeys. Okay, even today, whenever I go to the State Bank office, they talk about a new journey. If a 24-year-old wants to open a bank account, how can it be a completely branch-free journey? So, how can everything happen electronically? Or, I mean, if you look at learning, for instance, I mean, what is the learning journey for a student? Yesterday I was on ZTV, usual talk. Oh, hybrid learning, can people work entirely from home? Now, I am one of those old-fashioned people who say that people should come to office, Baba. आप भले ही आप 2 दिन हफ्ते में घर से काम करो, मगर कम से कम 3 दिन ऑफिस आओ. Because entirely working from home is going to create these islands of isolated people. I don't know how many of you are aware. 90% of the Nordic countries, Sweden, Norway, Finland, and Denmark, people are depressed. Seriously. There's a pill called Prozac, which is for depression, which is the highest sold after antacids, because people also drink too much. But I'm saying, so we don't want to become a depressed economy. I'm telling you, you talk to the 18-year-old who's not been to college in COVID, there's a lot of problems happening in society. So I am a great believer that people should have meetings like this. ठीक है, कोई नया वायरस आएगा तो घर में रहेंगे, but I mean, अभी तक तो नहीं आया ना. So, I mean, let's not get obsessed about this, okay? So, I mean, even yesterday in ZTV, I was saying, there was an HR girl, new one, we have this completely, you can work from anywhere and you can do anything, you can take off whenever you feel like. I was thinking, thank God I'm not 32 years old and running a new company. मैं तो मर जाता, seriously. In fact, when COVID hit, and my wife actually runs a fairly large company, 500 people, it's all in skills. So, Modi ji announced that 6-week lockdown, so everybody was at home. So people started asking, हम पुणे में रहते हैं, मेरा गांव सांगली में है, can I go work from Sangli? So I was tempted to say, जाओ यार कहीं से भी जाओ, internet तो सब जगह है. But Uma, my wife was very wise. She said, you work from home means work from home in Pune. You have come to work in Pune. Okay, now I thought it was a very dragon kind of statement. But the minute Modi ji 6 weeks finished, we started getting calls. आप office को size double कर दीजिए. We want to work from office. Why? Because so many bachelors are staying in maybe 1 bedroom apartment, 6 people, 4 people. How will they work from home? यार? तो हमारी जो HR की लड़की है बोलती है हाँ they can happily work from home, but happily work from home is not possible. So I'm saying where possible, come back to office for the social reason, for everything else. I'm hijacking my own presentation, but it's a favorite topic of mine. But because technology enabled it. Yesterday the same girl on ZTV was saying, but you see how effectively education systems completely changed to the internet. I don't know how many of you seen your children or grandchildren during COVID. वो कुछ नहीं पढ़ते थे. I promise you. Okay, the learning loss in those 2 years, even in cities, and villages का तो आप बात ही मत करो. I told you what happened there. Okay, because they're not interested. I mean, child is not naturally motivated, no. वो classroom में teacher के सामने बैठेगा तो he will automatically understand. But I've seen, I've actually observed, because I'm a deep researcher in these phenomena. I went to a young woman's house and she said, you watch how my son behaves. Very bright kid, live very, very close to here. So this guy is, the first thing they figured out कि mute कैसे होता है, and then वो video off कर देगा, and then after 5 minutes they say, sorry ma'am, मेरा connection का problem है. 7-year-old kid, and side में they are doing WhatsApp messages saying वो teacher इतना बेकार साड़ी पहनी हुई है, ये सब चलता है. So what learning will be there here? And you can't blame them, no? They're kids. So I'm saying सबको वापस school भेजो. It's the only way to do it. Same thing with employees, no? I mean, I'll tell you my last story. And I was actually in a discussion with Mr. Narayan Murthy February this year, Asia Economic Dialogue. Okay. So it was a 1-hour discussion. It's actually there on the internet. And I told Mr. Murthy, hey, you are coming from Bangalore, so this is the questions I'll ask you. So Mr. Murthy said, are there any trick questions you're going to ask me? So I said, Mr. Murthy, I'm going to ask you 2 trick questions. One is on hard work. The second is on moonlighting. You all heard of moonlighting? My own nephew in Bangalore, shame on him, is now doing 4 jobs at the same time. Seriously, वो Infosys के लिए काम करता है, Capgemini के लिए काम करता है, एक startup के लिए काम करता है और खुद का काम करता है. So I asked him, क्या कर रहे हो यार? He said, no, uncle, I was making 15 lakhs per year last year. This year I'll make 45 lakhs. And everybody is happy because anyway, if you work in Infosys and all, your actual work spent is 15%. It's all maintenance work, no? American company को कोई problem होगा तो करेंगे. So I told Mr. Murthy, Murthy said, absolutely, but I will be very rude on moonlighting. I said, don't worry. That's why I'm asking. So there's this big event, and then beach mein there's a 1.5 minute session, okay, where I talked about, what is this whole work from home phenomenon and moonlighting. And Mr. Murthy answered in his usual direct sense, social media. So within minutes, this Brute, which is one of those social media channels, had put this 1.5 minute out on the internet. Within 1 hour, even before we finished our call, there were 65,000 downloads, 680 comments, all the comments saying that these 2 old men should die immediately so that the young people can run the world. So I sent 5 of the hardest comments to Mr. Murthy. He said, don't worry, I'm used to this. So all that Murthy said was that no country ever got built with people sitting at home. Kaam karo. Field mein kaam karo, ghar mein kaam. Whatever you do, you have to work. There's nothing like without work, hard work. And then I told them the story, which is a true story. I had gone to Ladakh in November, and I met this young girl. We actually climbed up to this Lamayaru monastery. It's a very high monastery in Ladakh. So wahan pe we met this young girl. She must be hardly 25, 26. So she said, can you give me a lift back to Leh? We said, sure. Then my wife started talking to her. She said, where do you work? She said, I work for Infosys. What are you doing here? I'm on holiday. How long have you been here? 6-7 days? No, 6-7 weeks. I said, very nice. So I told her, Infosys must be a very nice company to give you so much holiday. Saying, no uncle, I'm not on holiday, I'm working. I said, yes, kaise hota? She said, every morning 8:30 in my hotel, I switch on my computer, and then I come back at 6 o'clock after my tourism, and I switch off my computer. So it's a work day. So I said, what is your work? She is something called managed services. I won't bore you with it. Managed service is nothing but what I said earlier, that if there is a ticket, which means a problem that is reported from the US, you have to solve it within 10 minutes. She is connected on a phone to the mobile phone. The minute there is a ticker that comes, she gets a signal on her mobile phone. She immediately calls a friend in Bangalore, ki yaar, ye tum dekh lo. Oh, yeah. And she says, my Bangalore friend is going for 3 months vacation to the US. I will manage her work. So, they're very helpful, nice children, right? So this is because our young people are so smart. I mean, Jugaad word was invented for them. I hope there are no 20-year-olds here. They will kill me out. So the Murthy said, this is illegal. They should all be put in jail and all like that. So I went and told my friend Salil Parikh, who's the current MD of Infosys. I met this girl in Ladakh, this is what she's doing for you. Salil said, uska naam de do yaar. I said, no, that's not. I said, you fix your bloody process. Don't penalize the girl. That's not fair. So I'm just saying, so coming back to the point, I'm saying, when you say journeys, you literally got to map how employees are learning. I'll show you a couple of slides on that. How customers want to buy. And these are very interesting ideas. And believe me, if you start thinking about it, it's this is what they call design thinking. That's the way to do it. Technologies, I won't talk about it, but today there's so many new technologies. Many of you would have heard of ChatGPT. Like all technologies in this world, it comes in and they say, oh my God, this is the biggest invention since fire. Okay, this will destroy all jobs. Everything will go, etc. Yesterday I was reading an article in Mint, which my friend Jaspreet Brinda has written. There was too much of hype. ChatGPT is good, but this novel I was writing, I said, let me experiment, because my heroine is this Goan girl called Sharon, and Sharon goes off on a tour of Europe. I've been to most of Europe, but I don't know everything. So I asked ChatGPT, just tell me that if Sharon has to go to 50 countries in Europe, what should she do? So ChatGPT tells me this is the immigration rule of each of these countries. So I complained to my friend, ChatGPT bilkul bekar hai. He said, no, you're asking the wrong question. You didn't ask, you just say, make general question mein kya hota hai? So keep refining your question. Point I'm making is, all these new technologies, artificial intelligence, GI, all excellent technologies, but the intelligence on how to use them has to come from us, which means we must know what questions to ask. As somebody said, artificial intelligence is not a remedy for natural stupidity. If naturally stupid ho, to AI will not help you. Please understand. So we have to be evolving in our own thinking. So other things, I put a whole bunch of augmented reality, virtual reality, which is of course very, very useful. For instance, one of the lighthouses here in Yerwada, people were saying, hame shayad nursing assistant banna hai, but we don't know what it entails. So I called my friend, who was a guy called Bommy Vote, who was then the CEO of Ruby Hall. I said, boss, we want to come and do a video shooting inside your operating theatre. He says, Karo. So we put it on something called virtual reality. So when the student now walks in, can get onto the virtual reality box and can go into the operating theatre. So he actually walks into the operating theatre through virtual reality, and he sees that the pulse is being taken by somebody who looks like him. Agar wo kar sakte hai, to main kyun nahi kar sakta? You see the point I'm making? So technology is enabling you to be in the experience. So a teacher aapko nahi padha rahi hai, but you are saying that, look, this I can do. So the confidence level of people have gone up so much, whether it's in mechanical draftsman work or medical. So I'm saying that those are the benefits. We must have to look at, one of my gurus used to say, technology is common, but success comes from using commonly available technology uncommonly well. Think of unique ways of using that technology. It's true for augmented reality, virtual reality, this whole thing called IoT, Internet of Things, 5G. 5G will change the way we communicate. But wahi stupid WhatsApp messages, if you are able to communicate at 3 times the speed, what is the value? You see my point? We have to think of new ways of using new technology, quantum computing, etc., etc. Processes, of course, the big advantage of digital already has been, I mentioned this earlier, that manufacturing, even in banking processes, for instance, robotic process automation is becoming absolute. So no need for any human being to do repetitive work. Because if you use technology, you can make sure that the repetitive work is done by technology, whether it's a services technology or a product technology, and everything else can be managed by human beings. One example I can give you, I'm a great fan of China. Aajkal fashionable nahi hai to say I'm a great fan of China, but I think what China did in 20 years is staggering. Don't forget, India and China were at the same level. Today, China is 5 times bigger than us. We can keep hoping they'll stay slow, next 10 years, kuch nahi karenge, sirf India grow karega, but we have to be conscious that China did I have a client even today in Shenzhen, which is in southern China. When I first started working with them 6 years ago, we were doing some digital work for them, and they had 3,000 women, and it's amazing to see how Chinese women work. Subah 8 baje aayenge, okay, they'll start working, no chit chat, nothing, okay. 11 o'clock, they will take a tea break, which is exactly 10 minutes, back to work. 12:30, they'll take a lunch break, chota dabba aayega. They don't go out to the canteen or anything like that. Chota dabba se kha lenge in 15 minutes. All of them will put their heads down and will sleep for half an hour. 1:30 they are back at work, another tea break at 3 o'clock and stay till 6. I mean, the work ethos is unbelievable. Now, UK is a dictatorial country, hai, sabko maar denge, but these are all Indian excuses. Discipline nahi hai, to kuch nahi hone wala. But recently when I went back after COVID, I mean, amazing. The same 3,000 people workforce has shrunk to 400. Every woman has been trained to use 4 low-cost automation, small robots, etc., etc. So it's a 1+4 model. So they've really assimilated technology. Productivity has gone up by 50%, and the number of people employed in the same factory has gone down by 1/5. So I'm saying this is the kind of ways that people can use technology. Again, I'm not making a social comment. Don't ask me what happened to the other 2,400. Arey Baba, when the economy grows, unko bhi naukri mil gaya hoga aur kahin. The problem is when we have stagnant growth in the economy. But when they were growing 10, 12% per year, employment was never a problem. And finally, and I'll talk about this a little bit, is culture. Okay, data analytics I won't get into because it's a complicated subject, but we'll talk a little bit about it. And so let me just very quickly take you through these points. Technology I won't cover because I already talked about this, but it came in waves. Digital technology started with what I call the SMAC stack, then Internet of Things, blockchains, etc. Blockchain bhi thoda zyada hype hai, so nothing much happened with cyber currency, all that stuff. The digital rupaya, as somebody said, I think that might, but it's going to be slow. Because even when Modi ji did demonetization, as you all know, the amount of black money in the market didn't come down. Okay, I mean, so it's not easy to change. Vardhaman, you must listen to this. I have a very good friend in Pune, young girl, very bright. I mean, she's an Agarwal. So she got married and into a family in Bada Bazaar in Calcutta. Okay. So she called up her fiancé कि मैं शादी करने के बाद I have 4 credit cards. Which one should I bring? He said, yeah, credit card Bada Bazaar में सिर्फ cash चलता है. So even today I was meeting her 10 years after she got married. They live in a house, 27 people in the same house, very happy joint family. But it's a complete cash economy. So I think India is India, boss. Okay, nothing much is going to change, but where it changes, you can incorporate. So that's the point I was making. And now, of course, I talked about augmented reality, computer vision, quantum computing, ye sab to chalte rahega. Factories of the future, and I won't go through this, but the factories of the future are going to be fully automated. One of my favorite pictures, which I used to do in training programs maybe 15 years ago, is of a screen like this. So pura dark hai, and there's one small light in the corner. What do you think that is? Imagine a dark screen with one white dot in the corner. What is this? Kya ho sakta hai? Come on, use your imagination here. Come on, guys. It is the Toyota factory in outside Tokyo operating at 100% capacity in the night shift. 100% capacity. Because entirely robotic, no manpower, so you don't need lights. It's just chugging along, producing car parts, etc., etc. So what is that little pink, little spot of light? That's a trick question. Huh? Sorry? No, intriguing. You're getting there. It's a good guess, huh?
That's the only human there.
Correct. That's a human security guard with his torch. कि सब ठीक चल रहा है कि नहीं? So that torch is what you're saying. It's a real photograph. Huh? So I'm saying this is 20 years ago, boss. Okay, so today if you look at what's happening, that's why I said it's almost like manpower free at this point of time. So flexible manufacturing systems, manufacturing execution systems, all the jargon you use, but the reality is the future of manufacturing is going to be automated. Okay, so that's one thing. AI and analytics I won't get into it. I mean, I'll just take you, this slide is better. So just understand AI and machine learning simply. Okay, see, because how did things evolve? Many of your factories also, you must be getting this, monthly report. पहले मुझे अभी भी याद है कि I started working in manufacturing in Crompton Greaves in Nasik. So I remember Nasik mein, and I was a young MBA, technology, ye, wo. So I went and asked the works manager, and we were doing a study, how computers just been introduced. Ye 80s mein tha. So we went and did a study saying, how has computers helped you in your productivity in the factory? We sent it to 14 factories of Crompton Greaves. 12 mein se jawab nahi aaya. One guy wrote back saying, it's terrible, it's destroyed my life. Okay. And one person from Nasik, which is where I eventually joined, Mr. Gulati, I still remember his name, wrote back and said, I find this extremely useful, this computer. So we said, chalo, ek to mila. So next day, I was in Bombay at that. We took on the Panchvati Express to Nasik. We met Mr. Gulati early in the morning, 8 o'clock. So we said, Mr. Gulati, you responded saying computers are so useful for me. So tell me how. Is it for materials management and production planning? He said, Bhaiya, quiet. 8 बजे इतना क्वेश्चन मत पूछो, let me have my chai. So we said we were waiting, and he had this huge pile of computer stationery. पहले होता था बड़ा बड़ा stationery, big ones. So then the chai wala comes, khaki half pants, chai, batata vada, and Mr. Gulati quickly takes out a piece of computer stationery, gives one to me, one to him, and he says, computers have made my life very hygienic. After that, he was my boss for 4 years. So we used to have so much fun. I remember he says, boss, you have come with a very strong technical background. तुम सुबह 9 बजे से रात 7 बजे तक you will manage 400 दत्ता सामंत यूनियन वर्कमैन. उसके बाद तुमको जो operations research ये वो करना है वो सब करो रात में. Okay, you are very clear about it. So I'm saying that's generation. I'll talk about generation X, but that is how people were. Okay, but to take an issue like that, and so today what's happening with analytics is you've moved from reports to dashboards. You're moving from dashboards to what is called descriptive analytics. What is descriptive analytics? What went wrong last month? Which material affected my production? Yes, sub postmortem. So what AI and analytics is doing is moving from descriptive to predictive. What is predictive? What is likely to happen next month? What is prescriptive? What can happen and what should happen? Today when Amazon tells you that people like you bought another book like this, they are prescribing. They're telling you it was an intelligent guy who bought this book, aap bhi kharid lo. Okay, now whether it is ethical or not is a different story. But I'm just saying the world is now predictive and prescriptive analytics. So that's a simple thing I want you to understand about. That's happened through artificial intelligence, machine learning. Coming back to my ChatGPT example, I mean, what they're saying is that in 5 years from now, there will be what they call LLMs, large language models for everything. So for instance, for let's say aviation, I mean, you could have a large language model which actually predicts key at this time, the turbulence will be like this. So the automatic guidance system for the pilot is actually taking him on a circuitous route. He doesn't know why. But the prediction is that there will be turbulence in that area, so you should take this path. So that's how drones will happen and all these happen, but I won't get into that. So that is the analytics part. And I mentioned this customer and employee journey. So if you look at customer journeys, this is how we design customer journeys. That first you empathize that if there are 17 types of customers, what is it that she really is looking for? And I remember we did a very big project for a UK retail chain where we said, yeah, people are not buying from the stores anymore. They're coming to the stores to get an experience. So I remember in a garment store, we converted to a 24/7 fashion show. There were just models walking down the ramp with the thing, and on your mobile phone, you can just click when you like this. So ghar mein jao. Then you look at the dress, evaluate against 5 different options which Amazon will give you, and then decide. So buying decisions are being taken much more from the comfort of your home than in the shop. So shops are becoming experience centers. So these are all findings when you look at customer journeys. So define what the customer journey should be, ideate or create ideas, prototype, test, and this is the repetitive process that we do through design thinking. So that's the customer journey part. Similarly, if you look at employees, and this is the interesting part of this conversation. See, even if you look at it today, okay, and I still remember we used to have this joke saying that when in the early days of computers, 90s when I used to do seminars, we used to say that, look, the world will be full of 5th generation technologies, 5G, quantum, etc. The processes, manufacturing process and business process will be very 3rd generation. But the people in our thinking will remain 1st generation. So then what happens? Success of digital depends on your thinking. It doesn't depend on the power of technology. So similarly, if you look at it here, the silent traditionalists, the people who are maybe are still maybe running businesses because they are the original founders, but they are the persons ultimately taking the decision. And then there are these what we call baby boomers, which are actually people in their maybe now they're all 60s. But now we're talking about the Gen X and Gen Y. Okay, and the Gen X, maybe up to the age of 35, are looking at new areas, comfortable with technology, but not very revolutionary. The Gen Zs, as we call them, Gen Y, Gen Zs, they are saying, what is this stuff there? I want to work from home, I want to do this, etc., etc. So, success, for instance, many of you are here this morning, Saturday, which is fantastic. 10 years from now, if you organize a session in Bori, everybody will say, can I come in online? Okay, nobody will want to come physically. Okay, it's already beginning to happen. Very difficult to get groups together. Our Rotary Club, as Vardhaman knows, if you have to get people to come, you have to give a very good breakfast in Sheraton. Nahi to koi nahi aayega. And the 44, I was telling my driver this morning, because he was passing by and he said, "Aapka photo laga hua hai aur bahut log ja rahe hain." I said, breakfast दे रहे होंगे. Seriously, people, and when we do these Zoom sessions with fantastic American speakers, मुश्किल से 8 लोग आएंगे, okay, out of a group of 50 people. But that's reality. I think that's not going to change. So what does it mean? Okay, I'll give you one example. So suppose you have to teach people ChatGPT, just to use the word, okay, and you got this 600 people in your organization. They're not going to come to a classroom. So they'll say, no, we don't want to do it. If they come to the classroom, I mean, somebody nicely said, please switch your mobile phones off. But he did not tell you, do not look at your screen. There are at least 4 people in this room looking at your screens. So मेरा lecture का तो फायदा ही नहीं हुआ किसी को. Which is why I try to make direct eye contact and ask questions. क्योंकि यहाँ, if you do one 45-minute लंबा भाषण, at the end of it, nobody except Vardhaman who has to listen because he's in the front row. Nobody is listening. Okay, so I'm saying that's why I started off by saying, let me entertain you. Educate ho ya no, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. But entertainment actually makes us think. So, now if you have to teach somebody 24-hour course on whatever, ChatGPT, how do you do it? Because they're not going to listen to you in class. तुम कितना भी कर लो नहीं सुनेंगे. Especially the new Gen Zs, because they're all looking at their phones. So we've actually created AI-based learning systems. Okay, I remember explaining it to the Vice Chancellor of Pune University. His eyes glazed over. ये सब Pune University में नहीं चलेगा. Not the current Vice Chancellor, don't get me wrong, 5 years back. So, just to give you an example. So, we're saying the learning journey, if you look at it, imagine this is a girl called Aditi, okay? And you have to teach her ChatGPT. So, you have to do what Aditi wants to learn in her style. Now, there are jargons I won't use called adaptive learning style. But there's no point in saying, I will get Ganesh Natarajan to come and talk to 40 Aditis, because they'll all have different expectations. So the first thing we do through this model is a very interesting model called Skills Alpha, is to poll. There is a little bot, and the bot can be male or female depending on which is the bot you want to interact with. So the bot will first have access to Aditi's last appraisal, what she has learned, etc., etc. Then it'll ask Aditi, what do you want to become, Aditi, in the next 5 years? So she'll say, what are my options? आजकल तो बच्चे लोग, even my 4-year-old grandson, we were in New York in a restaurant the other day, and this waiter, he इतना छोटा है, so she comes and asks him, so what will you have, baby? So he says, what are my options? 4 साल का बच्चा. We were like shocked, इसको क्या हो गया? But that is the new generation, right? And he's 4 years, he'll be terrible when he grows up. Okay, so but the Aditi 24 years, the same thing. She said, what can? So then you say, okay, you can either be a sales manager or you can transfer into services. What does it take to be this? Okay, so then the bot will tell her, okay, you have to learn these 3 new skills. You have to unlearn some things you have learned which are useless, particularly in college, and you have to reinforce some learning in these areas. So she's getting interested. So if I do that, can I become a service manager in 2 years instead of 3 years? Yeah, absolutely. Talk to somebody who has been there before. So she's talking to a mentor, and mentor ka, we all have this feeling that mentors are these people like Ganesh, bald, no hair, बहुत experience. कोई सुनता नहीं है. Okay. Okay. The mentor for a 24-year-old is not more than 30 years old, who has been through the same journey in recent past. That is what they listen to. So when we go in to do this in organizations, we find 40 mentors who are all young people, but who are willing to give a bit of time to Aditi. And Aditi will choose one. Okay, we're now actually building a platform for a US client, same thing. And once she chooses a mentor, has that discussion, mentor will say, okay, why don't you do this? And so then she is interested. Then she'll come onto the platform saying, okay, now teach me. देखा कितना time लगा before she wants to learn. And we think, oh, Ganesh Natarajan आएगा तो सब सुन लेंगे. ऐसा नहीं होता. So then Aditi says, but I don't want to learn through boring lectures or PowerPoints. Show me great videos. So the AI will show her videos that she wants to learn. So this is adaptive learning. That, adapting the learning style, or what we call the pedagogy of learning, to the style in which Aditi wants to learn. अब इतना spoon feeding करना पड़ता है. But if you make the effort, this is done by technology. You're not like getting trainers to do one-to-one training ऐसा कुछ. And we are finding, just the learning effectiveness goes up by 90%. So I'm just giving you examples of how day-to-day stuff that you assume will happen is happening better with technology. So this is what we put here, the AI bot over there. Internal social networks, the mentoring part. All the way to coaching, expert inputs, learning resources coming from video, from PowerPoint, from etc. She goes and attends a place like this, she can get credits. I spent 1 hour on Saturday morning listening to this lecture. So it'll give her credits. Okay, you heard Ganesh Natarajan for 1 hour, fine. Here's your learning content. So this is how we are gamifying the entire learning process in organizations. Okay, I'll stop in 10 minutes, don't worry. So just to conclude at one level, and then I'll talk a little bit and then finish. Hey, I started 10 minutes late, guys. So I'm going to take 10 more minutes. I'm cheating. Nahi kar raha hu. Okay. So first evaluate your starting position. Or honestly karo. Okay. Don't think, wo to hai, my son is there running the company. He knows all digital. Nahi hota aise. Okay. You have to get a real audit done of where you are in your digital journey. Define your strategy, obvious. Define technology touch points. If you have a process, which is the way it works today, the customer process, employee process, see how technology can help in every touch point. That is the important part of what we do. Developing skills and culture, as I said, how do we get Aditi to become a learner rather than just sitting there, and assess the risk. And then of course measure success. It's very easy to say we are very successful at digital. Whenever I do a CEO session, I ask them, how many of you have succeeded with digital? 50% of the room will put their hand up, even without knowing whether they've succeeded or not. Koi measure hi nahi hai. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Digital India, at least we have a measure. We don't have measure for success for digital companies. That's the problem. This is obvious. I remember this one. I was showing the same slide in a conference in Abu Dhabi, which was organized by the ruler of Abu Dhabi, and many of us were speaking. So I showed this slide saying, digital is fundamentally affecting all industries. And unfortunately, kya hota hai na, everybody looks at bottom kona hai. Okay. Or bottom mein, can you see presenting this in Abu Dhabi? So one sheikh gets up and saying, I work for ADNOC in Abu Dhabi. I'm very insulted by your point, and we are using digital much better than other people. So I still haven't changed the slide, so bad on me. But I'm saying today every industry is using digital technology. Now how successful you are depends on how effectively you're using it. That's what I'm saying. I'm very proud of what State Bank is doing, but I will keep talking to people and they'll give me WhatsApp jokes on State Bank. Everybody's out for lunch. वो सब चलते रहता है. But I'm saying there is a subtle improvement in some companies that we notice. And there are some companies which see things that, look, we are already God. Nothing needs to be done for us. Sadly, what happened to India for many years, that we assume कि सब हो जाएगा. नहीं होता ऐसे. You have to work hard and make it happen. So that's the point I'm making. And this is something you should be aware of. This is back to the economy. Please understand that the economy is moving towards three models. One is the cost model. If you look at Google, for instance, or Facebook, these are zero cost models. You get access to everything, low cost, whether it's a good use of your time or not. Vardhamanji was telling me that he looks at WhatsApp groups once in 4 days. I look at it 4 times per hour. So that's the difference. Okay. And definitely what he's doing is better. There's no point in wasting too much time on social media. But that's the point. So cost model is buyers get aggregated, which means many of us who are massively on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram are all being aggregated, being fed this stuff. Your mind is being polluted by what somebody wants to tell you. So, but that's we are asking for it. Okay. The experience model, which is Netflix. So it's amazing. Unless you are a Rajnikant or a Shah Rukh Khan, people will not come to a theatre to watch your movie. Why people watch Rajnikant and Shah Rukh Khan is a different story. I don't agree, but I don't want to get stoned in this room. Okay, but so I do all my consumption on Netflix. You start a movie, Netflix will remember where you saw it. I'm now watching five movies at different, depending on my mood, I will decide which one to watch. So I take almost like 1 month to watch a full movie. But you don't have time to spend 3 hours definitely not in a theatre. So this is the experience model. Depending on your style, you can consume when you want, how much you want, etc., etc. The platform model is what UPI is, and the platform model is what we believe will change this country. That's why I said every agriculturist, every SME, healthcare, Ayushman Bharat, completely available through digital technology, education, skills definitely. So I think that is what will make consumption of things you want to learn easy. But a proviso, don't forget that many of you know e-learning. Companies like Skillsoft, Coursera have been there forever. Globally, the statistic is that only 12% of people who start an e-learning course finish it. They're all people like me, they get distracted, they do nothing, etc. So what we are trying to say, like with the Skills Alpha I showed you, how do you make that learning effectiveness 70% from 12%? That is what needs intelligent thinking and intelligent design. So that's what you keep in mind whenever you look at digital. So finally, of course, this is something that we are all aware of. If you look at what is common between Uber and Facebook and Alibaba and Airbnb, etc., what is common between all these 4 companies? No asset, absolutely. If somebody had told us, we've throughout, I'm sure Vardhaman will remember, we were all evaluating our own companies on return on assets or return on capital employed. But ROCE models are very different nowadays. Okay, because these people are just trading on your asset and making information available for you. That's how all these are working. So it's a great model, and I'm saying this is something that will happen across the board everywhere. So basically what I'm saying is, just to conclude, I think India is progressing extremely well on digital, and I think that will continue because the kind of people who are now running digital is not just Nandan Nilekani, but I remember in the early days when they were talking about Aadhaar. At that time I was chairman of NASSCOM, and we had a very interesting meeting with Ram Sevak Sharma, who was the IT secretary at that time. He then became TRAI chairman, and even this new app for COVID was launched by him. So Ram Sevak ji was telling us exactly that, saying that, look, why don't we get young people to participate in building this technology? And we don't want to give it to an Infosys or a TCS or a Zensar or anybody. So that's what we created. We created a body called iSpirit, and multiple people doing stuff on weekends, and that's what created Aadhaar. So I mean, this is one of Nandan Nilekani's most significant achievements, to do a collaborative working model. Of course, they had quality control. They had to make sure that everything was fine, but that's what launched it. So I think the country will go towards a lot of gig workers, which means people doing parts of it at that time. See, the difference between gig worker and moonlighting is when you are like my nephew, doing work, taking full salary from 4 companies and doing work. Okay, that is illegal. But gig working is where you say, tell 4 companies that, boss, I will give you 8 hours per week, I'll give you 16 hours per week, and you stick to that. Then that's perfectly fine, and that's where the world will move towards. So the work styles of people will change, enabled by digital technology, because you can work from office, work from anywhere, work from home. That's bound to happen. But most important is, as I said, don't throw technology at your company. Think. Remember, journeys. What kind of journeys will all our stakeholders, supply chain partners, shareholders, employees, customers, what will they go through? How do I enable them with digital? And what is the process change that we have to do to completely change our process to digital? So I think that is where we will succeed. So thank you very much. I'm going to stop here. Very happy to answer any questions. Any questions literally on any topic. And this is a sales pitch for my digital book. It's called Accelerating Digital Success, which will say in 400 pages what I told you in 40 minutes. But it's something that Bloomsbury published sometime. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Well, India has launched Chandrayaan. It has sent the mission.
It has found sulfur on the dark side of the moon. Yes.
It has sent Aditya. Now, a lot of innovation must have gone into how that is going to impact our country. But ultimately, it will come into the common sphere.
No, it should. And in fact, there's a wonderful article today, I think in Mint, if I'm not mistaken, on what is the impact of what ISRO has achieved. See, because even in Chandrayaan, there are some cynics who say, like the answer I gave you, they found some sulfur on the dark side of the moon. So somebody will say, iska fayda kya hai? If you remember, BBC came up with this article saying, oh my God, 400 million poor people in India, and India is doing space rockets. Okay, but it is not a 0-1 situation. Okay, I think we'll have to wait for the lessons from ISRO. One great thing that ISRO has done is, really made Sundar Sasta Tikau technology. Okay, what the Russians and Americans spend billions of dollars, we are doing it in much less. But is there a value of this Sun Explorer? I don't know. Okay, so we'll have to wait and see, because I think what we are doing with, in fact, by the way, Asia Economic Dialogue next February, we're going to spend a lot of time on answering your questions, space research. We're going to get the chairman of ISRO to come and speak. Idea being exactly what you said, that all these experiments we are doing in new areas, how will it benefit the common man? Okay, I remember in early days when we talked digital, people say, "Yaar, villager ko kya farak padne wala hai?" But today, if I look at Educate Girls, we are using analytics to actually predict when this girl in Pali, Rajasthan will drop out of school. Okay, because then we can predict, now she's now 14 years old, her father will force her to get married, it's all models that are being built. So we can actually tell a social worker कि भाई उसके घर जाओ, find the eldest person in the family, not the father, find the दादी and tell the दादी कि आपकी बेटी को, आपकी granddaughter को अभी शादी नहीं करानी है, before a father even broaches the topic. So I mean, this is the kind of work that digital technology can predict for you. So even Chandrayaan, I think the technologies we've used to land the lander on the moon are what we should be using also for drones, working in agriculture in rural Jharkhand. So all this I think will begin to happen. So the technology assimilation is what will really benefit. Space research is great. I mean, by itself it's fantastic. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Sir, my question is about the IT services company like
Infosys or Wipro's.
Please, Zensar bhi bolo.
So, basically, sir, like you mentioned, lot of services company does that work of managed services, and now with the invention of like ChatGPT or AI tools, lot of their work is becoming obsolete. Like, so what do you see the future, like 3-5 years?
See, the future is, in fact, we did some research on future of jobs. Everything that you have been taught in college will be useless. That's the assumption you're making. I mean, you were taught a programming, like, I mean, when we did, I mean, I remember I finished my mechanical engineering, I came home with my degree and my father said, look, there's a problem in our compressor, please fix it. I said, I'm a mechanical engineer, not a mechanic. Okay. So, we get taught stuff that is very esoteric and doesn't get used. Okay. But same thing is happening in technology, because unfortunately what you learn in most of the engineering colleges are based on some conceptual ideas. And then you go into a company, I mean, any company now, like in Zensar, we used to do a 6-month full training program for every engineer we recruit. Because unko kuch aata jata nahi tha. It's sad actually. And I'm being very arrogant when I say this, because why is Zensar not going? And so then we started that Zensar will come and teach the final year semester in the college itself. So when they graduate, part of our work is already done there. So the concept of question is, what you have to teach is what we call learnability. Okay, which means that when you finish there was a time when you said, oh, I finished my engineering, bas abhi main aur kuch nahi padhne wala hu, bahut paisa kamane wala hu. But the people who keep learning, keep adapting their skills, I think these are the people who are really successful. And I have done this, unashamedly I can say I have done this throughout my life. I finished my engineering, then did my industrial engineering, started in manufacturing, then I moved into NIIT in Delhi where I was running the consulting business, then ran Aptech, computer education company for 10 years, and realized that, the basic concepts of people management, etc., is that you learn is what is your core competence. So today, am I a great mechanical engineer? No. Am I a great computer scientist? No. But can I talk about integrating these ideas and making it successful for you? Yes. And to my mind, that is the job of the future. You'll be surprised. The top requirement in future will be a job called storyteller. Can you believe it? So because people don't listen otherwise. I'm happy that 90% of you are listening to me right now, even after 1 hour. Okay. Because I'm telling you stories. You see my point? I'll tell you my last story. I grew up in a real small village in Jharkhand. If you read my novel, you'll get it. And there's a place called Tati Silva near Ranchi. Now, when I used to say Ranchi 20 years back, किसी को मालूम नहीं था. Mahendra Singh Dhoni आने के बाद everybody knows Ranchi. Ranchi is established. But nobody knows Tati Silva, just 12 kilometers from Ranchi. And because my father was running a factory there, very small, we were literally the only brick house in 6 villages. And then we studied in the nearest school, which was a Christian missionary school in Namkum, which is closer to Ranchi. So I remember when I was, I think, 13 or 14, somebody told me that IIT naam ka koi cheez hota. Can you believe it? Ignorance is ultimate. So then I went to my principal, his name was Anglo-Indian guy called Fitzgerald. We used to call him Fitzy. So I said, Fitzy, I want to get into IIT. So he said, let me stop laughing first. I said, why? He said, in Bishop Westcott School in Namkum, Ranchi, you don't get taught enough physics, chemistry, maths to get into IIT. Forget it. I was really crestfallen. I told him, what does that mean? I'm finished. I'm going to be no use in my life. He said, when you're 60 years old, Ganesh, look back on your life and you will remember that the English we taught you in school, English language communications, is what made you successful. Interesting. Okay. No, you never think of it. No, I was in all the elocutions and debates, etc., etc. But my father always thought, he's wasting his time. He could be studying, instead he's going to Patna to participate in a inter-college, inter-school debate. But sometimes, and that's what I keep telling children, I do a lot of work. In fact, Vardhaman's daughter Pranjal does an absolutely amazing work, and both my wife are part of that mission, to take young children and open their minds, okay, to make that happen. So I think we have to be clear that the skills you learn in college today are not going to be useful. But the ability to learn, the ability to have a curious mind, the ability to be open in your mind, I think that's important. So after, in fact, when I became CEO of Aptech, 1998, my wife and I registered for a PhD in IIT Bombay. And everybody told us, hey, IIT Bombay is too tough, yaar. I mean, that's for full-time guys. कोई बहुत PhDs, 3 साल में मिल जाते हैं. ऐसे ही आप certificate लिखो हो जाएगा. And unfortunately, it's true. Today, so many people have carry a PhD. I was a PhD guide in Pune University. So my first student had already spent 2 years on a PhD. So I asked her, what is your topic? She said, study of the retail industry in India. I said, study of the retail industry in India is a PhD topic. What is your hypothesis? You never heard of hypothesis. So I'm saying, sometimes I get worried by the status of the country. और हमको इतना रगड़ना पड़ा IIT बॉम्बे में. My wife was CEO of ZTV, I was CEO of Aptech. But we literally took the trouble of spending 5 years making it happen. But a great experience, a humbling experience. You may be CEO, whatever. लोग प्रोफेसर बोलता है नहीं सुनोगे तो तुमको फेल कर देगा. Great. And after coming here, in 2008, I went to Harvard Business School to do a 10-week, really accelerated management program. And people say, why are you already CEO of this company? Why do you want to go to Harvard? I said, I have to learn. So I'm saying, if you do one thing with your children and grandchildren, just tell them to have a completely curious mind to keep learning. You will never know what learning you get in your life which will be useful for you. Sorry, long answer, but that's my favorite question. Yeah, guys, tell me to shut up whenever you want. I can go on forever. Yes, sir.
Hi, this is Deshpande from Safe Pack Limited, Pune. Actually, mostly you have answered the question I was about to ask, because you just said about the wisdom. Actually, information, knowledge and wisdom, there is a difference. And actually I am finding a great difficulty in finding the peoples having the full wisdom. I wanted to understand, is there any technology we can use and understand?
My PhD is in the question you asked. My PhD is on a topic called knowledge management maturity models. And exactly what you said, because we started by saying, how does data get converted to information? It's by classification. The minute you put it in tables, etc., it becomes information. How does information get translated to knowledge? Anybody? How does information become knowledge?
With experience.
Exactly, it's through experience, which is the contextualization of information makes it knowledge. Which is why even in this talk, I've just tried to contextualize. If I just give you these slides, sunoge aap, by the time you've gone back home, you'd have forgotten it. But here you remember some of the examples. So that's what experience. But knowledge to wisdom, very good question you're asking. See, wisdom is what we call embedded knowledge. So if you hire 40 knowledgeable people, or you hire 40 learners, and they become knowledgeable, then the organization gets embedded with that knowledge. So that's what is wisdom. But wisdom can't be taught. Wisdom can't be planted from outside. It has to grow within an entity. It happens in families, it happens in communities. So that's really what happens. Any last questions? Yes.
Hi. So, the digital space over the last several years has become very, very crowded, right? Everybody is onto that space. And the ROIs also have reduced. So, any macro direction that you would like to leave us with where...
No, when you say ROI is reduced, ROI is not reduced. But ROI for startups, yes, you got to be particularly careful.
Yeah, so I'm talking about the kind of spends that one did earlier and the kind of returns that got. Things have become more expensive as compared to what it was earlier. Now things are more expensive, whereas your returns have gone down, right? So the ROIs have reduced.
It's a law of diminishing returns, in the sense that your first couple of years of digital investment, if you invest it wisely and not like just throw it away, will give you very good returns. But after that, you're right. You have to pick. That's why I use the word called edge technology. So you have to pick which edge technology will really give you that additional bang for the buck. So that's really how it is. Like we were doing some work for Sun Pharma, the biggest pharma company in India. And we were really looking at how much they've done in process automation in their multiple factories. But where it was lacking was the integration of the factory automation with the ERP system, the SAP system they were using. The minute you make those linkages happen, they got the additional return. So sometimes you have to look for sweet spots for additional return. But it's a topic by itself.
Okay.
Mahesh Industrial Group, women are not allowed to ask questions. Who's no?
Hi. What are your views on CBDCs, like the digital rupee, the digital yuan? Is it something that can eradicate cash in the long run, do you think? Or
what happened, if you remember, was we had this whole cyber currency, and unfortunately it became overhyped and a lot of banks banned it. So the digital rupee was actually a response to saying that, look, if you don't want to use cryptocurrency, at least we'll give you an option with the digital rupee. So it's early days. Obviously many of the major banks have adopted it, but to become mainstream like UPI or Google Pay, etc., I think it takes a bit of time. But digital rupee, I think it's a great idea. Okay, even today when you talk about tradable rupees across, if every country has a digital currency, then why not? That's the idea. You may have seen that video, but now today with UPI you can withdraw money from an ATM. So you don't need your card anymore or your ATM card. So in a sense, your digital rupee will go in the same direction. Now you could argue that why do you ever need to withdraw cash? I remember 15 years back we were talking in Singapore to those people, and the vision for Singapore was a day will come when the Singapore dollar will cease to exist. And they were talking about by 2010 tak karenge, hua nahi hai. So what is the idea? The idea is that when if you are a Singapore citizen, the government knows your net worth. Okay. So when you get into a bus with optical recognition, your net worth somewhere on a database is being reduced by $3, which is what is the bus fee. Okay, seriously, I mean, that was their vision. And when your net worth is coming to maybe less than maybe $10,000, you'll get a warning on your mobile phone. Ki boss, you better earn some money because we don't think your net worth is high. And Singapore is Singapore. So when your net worth comes to zero, they will march you out of the country. This was their vision. Although hua nahi hai, there's still Singapore dollar in currency. But effectively, when you have the digital rupiah becoming completely omnipresent, then my friend in Bada Bazaar, Calcutta will have to stop using cash. That's the idea. But not yet. Yep. No girls in this room are taking a hint to ask questions. Kya kare? Yeah. Yes, you are a wise man. Okay, so somebody there?
I will ask the last question.
Please.
So we have discussed the benefits and their future about the digital economy. But I think we missed the threats for the digital economy. So I just want to know the threats and how to avoid this in future.
The threat is obvious. No? I mean, the reason why there's so much, like I've just invested in a data privacy company, okay, which is based in Pune only, called Arca Software. And what that young lady is doing is exactly that, you know, to make sure that anybody who embarks on digital, to give you a data privacy framework, you know, by which you people are also, all of us, like, I mean, I am supposed to be a great digital guru, but I still use the same password for every one of my sites. It's ridiculous. And so many, you know, elderly people will give their driver their ATM number, etc. You know, so basic awareness on how to manage your data, how to retain privacy is important. Because whatever you do, cyber, like we invest in State Bank so much money on cyber security. Because somebody is always wanting to hack into somebody's account, etc. So I think the risk of digital is obviously privacy has to be top class. Your cyber security levels in terms of firewalls, etc. have to be amazing. And you can no longer keep money under the pillow and you sleep happily at night. You never know which hacker from which part of the world is getting into your bank account. So I think those kind of things are the risks in digital. Otherwise, there's no particular risk. Great. So on that note, thank you very much. I enjoyed the session, by the way.
Sir, my last question.
Good.
Sir, I'm running MSME. We have around 250 crore turnover, aluminium foundry, and we used to supply your Honeywell turbochargers also, which is now Garrett Motion. I'm with my IT head and materials head here also. I found it very difficult to go with the digital, even though we have SAP B1. But I find it that we don't really get good resources. So I was asking most of the service provider, does India will have to look on a Pakistan or China to support our digital aspirations? So it's really a problem for MSME. There is no one to support on a digital, what I will say, digital highway or digital way. So how to come out of this? Even though now our gate pass systems, we have made it digital, paperless. We are doing many things. Cloud attendance systems, we started maybe around 7 years back. बट नहीं है कोई जो एस्पिरेशन हमें करना है, हम चाहते तो है, पहुंच नहीं पाते हैं. नाउ यू हैड बीन हेडिंग बिग सेंसर अवे हनीवेल, तो करीब से देखा है मैंने. सो थोड़ा गाइड कीजिए सर, बिकॉज मोस्ट ऑफ अस आर फ्रॉम एमएसएमई इंडस्ट्रियल बैकग्राउंड, और बहुत लोगों को हमें लगता है कि इस पे कुछ तो भी एक अच्छा छोटा सा वे अगर आप बता देंगे हाउ वी शुड डू, इट विल हेल्प अ लॉट. थैंक यू.
We did something for Bangalore MSMEs, I think almost 7 years back. We can do a similar, for instance, I mean, like you, if you can identify 4 or 5 companies who are all roughly in the same, are interested in digital, maybe SAP, V1 or whatever software you're trying to implement, and we get a cluster together. So maybe what we can do is we can just, maybe have somebody coming and spending one day in each of the 6-7 companies, and say as a cluster approach, because the problem you always have is you'll never find a good, competent guy who will stay with you. उसको कल को सेंसर में जॉब मिलेगा चला जाएगा. That is reality. Okay, and you can't stop them also. But we can put maybe a cluster of 2 or 3 people who are competent, who can support these 6 companies. So your cost is also much lower. So we can actually try an experiment. I'm all for trying experiments, because the Bangalore experiment was very successful. We did it almost 6 years back. But we can actually look at digital success for a cluster of companies supported by Mahesh Industrial Group or whatever. So whatever ideas you have, you tell me. I'm happy to talk about it.
वैसे ही लगने लगा है कि इंजीनियरिंग छोड़ के शायद मुझे सॉफ्टवेयर में आना पड़ेगा. So big problem, sir, because
today you look at Indian Express, they're saying that this year the recruitment is maximum in manufacturing industry. So mentally I was saying, this is it. I think I was telling Vardhaman or somebody. I remember when I just started running Zensar, I went for a cocktail party in Bombay, and Mr. A.M. Naik, all of you would have heard of A.M. Naik, a legendary Larsen & Toubro guy. So I introduced myself to him, and he said, what do you do? I said, software business, we're growing. So he said, okay, I've been looking for somebody like you in this party. I said, very nice. So then there's music going on, so he told the band to stop. And he said, I want to make an announcement. Okay. Everybody was there, Anand Mahindra and a lot of people from the Tata Group. So he takes me on stage with him and said, gentlemen, here is a villain in this party. These people are stealing all our engineers, chemical engineers, civil engineers, mechanical engineers, are all going into IT, and that is why L&T is not getting people. So I said, look boss, we are not stealing them. If they want to join, it's a free country, it's a democratic country, you can't tell them where to go. But today I was really happy. I was thinking of Mr. Naik, and I said, no, the fact that IITs are seeing massive input to manufacturing industry, global manufacturing, not necessarily Indian manufacturing, is good. I think slowly we have to get people to. Like we were talking to PCMC Commissioner Shekhar Singh last week, because we are now setting up a no youth left behind agenda for PCMC, where every youth in every slum in PCMC will be trained, got a job, and be successful. That's our mission, social mission. तो शेखर very happy. आप 2 साल बाद क्लैप कीजिए जब हो जाएगा. PMC we have done good stuff, and even Delhi we are doing this, but I mean that's my current passion. So Shekhar Singh was saying exactly the same thing. He said, boss, you have to make sure that every MSME in Pipli Chinchwad is able to understand the value of taking somebody who grew up in the slums, but who can make stuff happen. I mean, please read my book. My novel is exactly about that. It's about this high fashion Bombay girl meeting a young slum dweller called Abhay from Pune. Okay, and what happens in their lives. Okay, because I'm seeing that through real experience. But why I'm saying this is because even Shekhar Singh is very keen on doing that. So I think we have to it's very difficult to impact a 4 people employee MSME. Because it's very difficult because they just don't have the bandwidth to do that. But companies like yours must succeed in digital, yaar. नहीं तो इस देश का क्या होगा?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So one question. Sorry, last. Yes.
Am I excused? Am I done?
I'm a production engineer. Sorry, one question. I'm a production engineer. Passed my production engineering in 2007. Currently, I'm working for SafePack and looking after manufacturing planning. Like you rightly said, production engineer, mechanical engineers, what is the way forward? SAP B1 is already a big task for us as well. But for personally, what do you suggest? What should be the career path ahead? What should we learn? What training should we get in digital, these things, so that we can enhance and go ahead, look forward?
See, I don't think you need training. It's almost like you need an open mind. Every time somebody tells me a new technology, I first wait for 3 months. Because काफी technology काफी hype होते हैं. And then right now I'm starting to write a book on the changes in management thanks to automation and generative AI. Why am I do most of my writing because it gives me a chance to do research. नहीं तो ये ज़माने में you just do Twitter, थोड़ा Facebook में कुछ नहीं होता. So all my books are based on research. In fact, even the China book we wrote, by the way, this last example, was done jointly by 6 of us in Pune International Center. Dr. Mashelkar, Dr. Kelkar, both of whom are Padma Vibhushans, President and Vice President. And Gautam Bambawale, who was India's ambassador to Pakistan, China. Ajit Ranade, who is the Vice Chancellor of Gokhale Institute. And Ajay Shah, whose family runs the Center for Monitoring Indian Economy. So these 5 guys and me, we got together on a Zoom call, COVID ke time mein. And that is when, if you remember, China had kind of attacked Ladakh. Even today nobody knows wahan hai ki nahi, but we won't get into that. But so then we said, look, what is the response to China? And General Mehta, who lives in Pune, he was saying, देखो military ने क्या सिखाया उसको? I said, General Mehta, वो तो ठीक है. I mean, obviously we are very proud of our military, bare-fisted, they got them back, etc. But in the long term, China will keep encircling us. Aksai Chin and Arunachal Pradesh problems are not going to go away. So that book was about what is facing up to the China challenge. We said diplomatically, socially, culturally, economically, what do we do? And honestly, it was depressing when we did our research to find that India is so far behind China in so many areas. Okay, then in fact, we were presenting this book to government, and government said, why don't you be more positive and write India's Pathways to Success? That was the second book, the India's Pathways. My novel, in fact, I'm doing a session in Amsterdam, October 7th, for the Pan IIT European Forum. So I said, I will not talk about only the hype about India, I'll talk about the need for inclusion. Because the 400 million Abhays of the world and the girls growing up in Pali, Rajasthan also need to see India shining, as we used to call it earlier, or the great Bharat has to be successful. So that's my current thing. So I mean, apart from being better than competition, being good for India, including ISRO and everything else, and making sure that, I don't even know whether you guys know, there are 740 slums in Pune. 740. We are now working in 480 of them. But each of those slums need that kind of support from us. Ab villages mein jao to alag hi baat. That's the reality of Bharat. So how do we make that inclusion happen? So I think once we do that, it's a long way, not in my lifetime, but at least kuch karenge abhi to somebody will do it with us. Thank you.
Dr. Vardhaman Jain want to speak a couple of words, so please. That's a poem.
गणेश को आपने सुना ही, आनंद लुटा ही होगा। और जैसे कि हमारी प्रथा रही है, हर वो सेशन के बाद हम जब भी रहे साथ में, मैंने 4 पंक्तियां रची है और कही है। तो आज कोई दिन अलग नहीं हो सकता था, क्योंकि गणेश ने हिंदी और अंग्रेजी में दोनों की बात करने की कोशिश किया। अलावा अदरवाइज वो हिंदी इस्तेमाल कम करना पसंद करेंगे, अंग्रेजी ज्यादा बोलना पसंद करेंगे, क्योंकि उनको उनके फादर ने रांची में अंग्रेजी सिखाई थी। मैं भी अंग्रेजी मीडियम से आता हूं, पर हिंदी में बोलना पसंद करूंगा, ताकि जो उन्होंने बात कही वो आपके दिमाग तक पहुंची, जो मैं कहूंगा वो दिल तक पहुंची। 4 पंक्तियां गणेश के लिए। राह डिजिटल की सुनहरी है, राह डिजिटल की सुनहरी है, आंखों में उजाले रख। राह डिजिटल की सुनहरी है, आंखों में उजाले रख। जाग पर अपनी जिज्ञासा को संभाले रख। जाग पर अपनी जिज्ञासा को संभाले रख। चांद तारे नहीं, क्लाउड से भी दोस्ती निभा। चांद तारे नहीं, क्लाउड से भी दोस्ती निभा। कहे गणेश, एआई और डेटा को जिंदगी में पाले रख। धन्यवाद।
Thank you so much, Vardhaman. It was very interesting and nice. So I'm here on behalf of MIG board to thank Ganesh ji for all his wisdom that he shared with us today. So like our president said that we have at MIG like जल्दी से हमारी गणेश चतुर्थी चालू हो गई, और सच में आज हमारे पास गणेश जी आए और उन्होंने अपना ज्ञान हमारे साथ शेयर किया. So it was truly amazing, sir. So सर ने हमको मतलब इंडिया, डिजिटल इंडिया कैसे फंक्शन कर रहा है, उसके बाद हमारे बिजनेसेस में हम लोग कैसे इसको यूज कर सकते हैं, हमारी फैक्ट्रीज कैसे होनी चाहिए, हम बहुत सारी चीजों से सर ने हमको अवगत कराया. इट टच अपॉन लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स एंड आई मीन इट इज अ कॉम्प्लेक्स टॉपिक फॉर लॉट ऑफ पीपल, बट सर का जो तरीका था स्टोरी बता के और चीजों को सिंप्लीफाई करके और एंटरटेन करके बताना, आई थिंक दैट वाज समथिंग वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग and I think everybody might have enjoyed today's session. So it was very interesting, and I really thank you, sir, on behalf of the board. So thank you so much. So maybe I'll request if everybody can stand and give sir standing ovation. I'll request all the board members to come forward. We'll take one photo.